Good morning, fellow gamers. I'm Christopher Chrisman of Retro Game Network, and coming up next, a look at last week's retro video game news on the RGN files for the week ending Sunday, April 29, 2018. In the RGN files this week, we at Retro Game Network brought you the story last month about the upcoming title Tempest 4000, which is being released by Atari in conjunction with Llamasoft. The game is being prepped to be offered on the PS4, Xbox One, and Steam networks, and is a new and updated version of the classic coin-operated arcade game. Tempest 4000 is the creation of Jeff Minter, who is known for also programming the game Tempest 2000 for the Atari Jaguar and Sega Saturn platforms in the mid-1990s. Recently, RGN had reported on an estimated release time frame, but this has been narrowed down even further for console editions of the game. While the original estimate of this coming summer still stands for the Steam version, the PS4 and Xbox One editions are now confirmed for a release date of June 12th. It has also been confirmed that the game will also receive a physical media release for the console versions alongside of their digital counterparts. The game is slated to cost just under $30 for the physical editions, with no additional pricing information known for the digital-only or PC versions of the game. An unusual statistic was announced over the weekend, courtesy of the MPD Group, an American market research corporation that tallies the sales of a variety of consumer items, including video games. While compiling the data for the first quarter of this year, it was determined that the total number of video games sold for the Sega Game Gear handheld console was 1. We're not talking about used product or sales on internet auction sites, but rather an original piece of stock produced when the Game Gear was still available for general purchase. Member Matt Piscatella was made aware of this sale and took his amazement to his personal Twitter account. The cartridge had originally been purchased by the chain Half Price Books when the game was still being produced for the system, and was not sold until this past February, when it was sold to a man in Wisconsin for the price of $6.99. With this single sale now officially in the point-of-sale record books, we can now officially state that the best-selling video game for the Game Gear in 2018 is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, released back in 1992. In other Sonic the Hedgehog related news, Sega has officially announced the release date of their upcoming physical release edition of Sonic Mania Plus. The game is an expanded version of the original Sonic Mania, which was first released this past August. Sonic Mania Plus pays homage to the 16-bit versions of the Sonic the Hedgehog titles, featuring fast-paced side-scrolling action and a platformer similar to the original titles of the franchise. Alongside of getting a release on optical disc and cartridge, the updated game will also receive additional upgrades, such as Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel being added to the mix as playable characters. In addition, the new release will also include reversible cover art featuring a side of Sega Genesis-style covers, alongside of a holographic slipcover and a 32-page art book. Sonic Mania Plus is scheduled for release on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch platforms this coming July 17th, and will cost just under $30. Those that purchased the original Sonic Mania last year can upgrade to the Plus Edition via DLC for just under $5. In other Sega-related news this week, it had been previously announced that a remastered edition of the Dreamcast classic Shenmue, along with its sequel, are being prepared for release on modern consoles. Recently, a list of the achievements that could be earned for the upcoming Steam version of the game was leaked, with similar achievements and trophies being offered for the PS4 and Xbox One versions. Each game will offer 24 achievements, with a total of 48 being available for both games in the series. The re-release of the two games in the franchise will otherwise stay true to the originals, however will offer modernized features, including a scalable screen resolution, modern or classic control schemes, an updated user interface, and your choice of either the original Japanese or English dubbed voiceovers. Shenmue 1 and 2 is slated to be released on Steam, the Xbox One and PS4 platform, sometime later this year, and will be offered on digital alongside a physical optical media disc for the console versions. Each version of the game is expected to cost just under $30. A new homebrew title called Micromages is currently in development for Nintendo's 8-bit NES platform. The game, being created by Morphcat Games, has been in the works for some time, but has recently gotten some additional exposure this past week when a demo showing the game in action was shown off throughout the city of Berlin. Last week, the demonstration was made available for view at both the Quo Vadis and Game Fest conventions in the German capital. Micromages is a 2D side-scrolling platformer that will allow local multiplayer capabilities, with as many as 4 players taking part in the action simultaneously. Morphcat Games, who made another NES title called Super Bat Puncher several years ago, has made the official announcement on their social media outlets that they would be turning to Kickstarter in order to gain additional funding to complete the title in hopes of making a physical cartridge release a reality. This Kickstarter is expected to begin sometime next month. In other homebrew news this week, a new game for the Commodore 64 computer platform is currently in development over in the United Kingdom as part of a successful Kickstarter campaign that revives a print publication of the original computer's lifespan. Sizzler is an upcoming original title by Fusion Retro Books, who used Kickstarter to revive the magazine Zap 64. In the game, you play the part of a robot who has always dreamt of creating original video games for, no surprise, the Commodore 64. With the success of the over £27,000 Kickstarter, a pledge of £55 will get you the game on cartridge media, while a £110 pledge gets you the game on cassette tape alongside of other bundled items. In addition, it has also been announced that Cytronic Software, an independent distributor of games for legacy Commodore and NEC-based systems, would also release a version of the game outside of the campaign at a later date. Those supporting the Kickstarter project can expect their games to ship out this coming September. The Coca-Cola Company has recently teamed up with Clear Channel Communications to create a pair of retro-styled video arcade machines at select bus stops throughout Singapore. It's all part of a campaign at the Coca-Cola Company called Fizz Up with a Coke Breaks, which offers a free sample of their newly launched stevia-sweetened beverage as a reward for winning the arcade game. The game itself uses retro-era graphics in a modern touchscreen world where you must tap on all of the cola bottles without error in order to claim your prize. This isn't the first time that Coca-Cola took advantage of video games and promotions, as they had previously had behind-the-scenes video game offerings for both the Atari 2600 and Sega Game Gear systems in the 1980s and 90s. The arcade cabinets for the current promotion are located at two specific bus stops within Singapore, both of which located at points of transit for those en route to local universities. There is currently no word as to when the promotion would come to an end. To finish off our weekly podcast this time around, we wanted to give our readers some additional information about things that are going on behind the scenes right here at Retro Game Network. For starters, we wanted to announce that starting this Saturday, RGN will begin publishing our original features once again. When RGN debuted back in 2012, we offered a variety of different opinionated features and reviews in the forms of our Retro Game Retrospectives, Pure Imagination, Headlines from the Past, and our VHS Rewind. Since our relaunch earlier this year, we have been primarily focusing on news stories, however have decided to bring back our original features with a brand new one being published every Saturday. We look forward to bringing our original viewpoints back to the site and certainly hope you will enjoy the return of these articles. In addition, we also wanted to inform our readers that starting next week, our regularly scheduled RGN Files podcast will be uploaded at a new day and time. As a way of making our podcast more even with traditional calendar weeks, starting with our next edition, the RGN Files podcast will begin uploading every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget that when our official radio program, VGM on FM, returns to the airwaves this June, the RGN Files will still be a part of that program. And finally this week, make sure to stay tuned to Retro Game Network as we announce the date and time of our very first test broadcast on our brand new Twitch channel. We will begin regularly scheduled streams sometime during the summer, but over the course of the next few weeks, we'll be doing some testing on our end to make sure that our devices are functioning properly. We will announce our first test day, time, and game sometime during this week, and we certainly look forward to meeting all of our faithful readers and hope that you will tune in for our new exciting endeavor. That's it for this week's edition of the RGN Files. Be sure to check out Retro Game Network every day for the latest in retro video game news. For complete details of any of this week's stories, visit RetroGameNetwork.com. And don't forget to check out Retro Game Network on social media outlets, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Retro Game Network, and on Twitter and Twitch at Retro Game Net. For the RGN Files, I'm Christopher Chrisman. This week's news story is provided by the following: Amazon US, IB Times, Indie Retro Games, Marketing Interactive, Mumbrella Asia, Must Share News, Polygon, Sega Nerds.